welcome to 7.6. We're going to be talking about interest. So let's look at an example problem here. It's still involving percent, so we're just making percentage calculations, but it's a different topic. So in this case, it's interest, which is money that you earn for typically for not touching your money and leaving it in a bank or in some other kind of investment. So in this example, a farmer borrows, or excuse me, it could also be money that you have to pay if you borrow money, right? That's the other consequence. So a farmer borrows $8,000 from his local bank at 12%. How much does he pay back to the bank at the end of the year to pay off the loan? So he's got to pay back the $8,000 plus he's got to pay back 12%, which is pretty steep. So let's have a look. So the first thing we've got to do is calculate the interest. So the interest is 12% of the 8,000. So we're going to turn this into a decimal, turn that into multiplication, and it turns out to be $960. Now, that's $960 in interest. So then how much does he have to pay back? He has to pay back the $8,000 plus $960 in interest. So the total amount, $8,960, is what he has to pay back at the end of the year. Okay, how about another example? A student takes out an emergency loan for tuition, books, and supplies. The loan is for $600 at an interest rate of 4%. How much interest does the student pay if the loan is paid back in 60 days? So the formula is that interest equals principal times rate times time, where the time is out of a year, right? So in this case, the interest, how much interest is equal to the principal, we know that's $600, times the rate, we know that's 4%, times the time, which in this case is 60 days. And at 60 days, in accounting, they use 360 days in a year, which is a little strange, right? But that's what they use. So 60 days out of 360 days. So if we do our math here, 600 times 0.04 times, 60 over 360, the zeros cancel, and then 6 goes into 6 once and into 36 6 times, so it's really 1/6. So all of that multiplies to be 4. So the interest is $4. Now, why is the interest only $4 on a $600 loan? Well, that's because you only borrowed it for 60 days. Since you paid it back in 60 days, you're not paying an entire year's worth of interest. That's what 4% is. That's for the whole year. You're only paying a portion of that. You're paying a sixth of that because you paid it back in about a sixth of the year. So hopefully that one makes sense. Here's another one. A homemaker puts $3,000 into a savings account that pays 7% compounded annually. How much money is in the account at the end of 2 years? So because it pays 7%, then at the end of 1 year, we'll have 7% of 3,000. So let's figure out what that is. So year 1, the interest is 7% of 3,000. So 7% of 3,000 is $210. So after 1 year, we have $210 in interest added to the $3,000 that we started with in principal. So there's our interest from year one. So in year two, we're starting with a little bit more money. We're starting with $3,210 now, because that's the total at the end of year one. So we're going to find out what 7% of, now it's $3,210. It's not the previous $3,000 amount. So what is 7% of 3,210? That turns out to be $224.70. Now I take this and add it to what I started year two with, and that's how I'll get what I end year two with, which would be $3,434.70. So I calculated 7% of $3,000 for year one, and then I added that interest and calculated 7% of that amount for year two and added that interest and got my total amount in the account after 2 years. All right, let's have a look at another example. If $10,000 is invested in a savings account that pays 6% quarterly, how much is in the account at the end of a year? So, a quarterly is 1/4 of a year. So we're going to take this process and we're going to have to repeat it 4 times to figure out how much money we'd have at the end of a year. So remember, interest equals principal times rate times time. So the interest is equal to the principal, $10,000, times the rate, which is 6%, times the time, which in this case is 1/4 of a year, 1/4. You could write it as 0.25 or as the fraction 1/4. Then we'll calculate that this is $150 in interest. So then what we'll do is we'll take this, we'll add it to our 10,000, and we'll make that calculation again, but by adding. So it'll be $10,150 times 6% as a decimal times 1/4. So that's $152.25. And we would expect that it would be a little bit more. So we'll take that, we'll add it to what we started with. So that'll be $10,302.25 times 6% times 1/4. So this is the first quarter, the second quarter. Now we're calculating the third quarter. $154.53 when I multiply all those. And it's getting a little bit bigger every quarter. Not a lot bigger, but a little bit bigger. So there's the third quarter. Now let's calculate the fourth quarter. So when I add this to the previous amount, I get $10,456.78. Now I'm going to find out what 6% of that is for another quarter. That's $156.85. So those are the 4 quarters of interest. So my total amount If I add the interest to the previous quarter, my total accumulated amount is $10,613.63. So let's review some of the concepts here. What is the difference between interest rate and interest? And this is a lot like the previous section when we looked at things like sales versus sales tax rate, sales tax, versus sales tax rate, or commission versus commission rate. So the interest is an amount of money. Interest rate is a percentage. B, what is simple interest and how is it different than compound interest? So simple interest is when you earn a percentage for the year. So simple is when you earn a flat percentage for the year. And compound is where is that interest is added to the principal. C, how much does the student in example 3 pay back if the loan is paid off after a year instead of after 60 days? Ooh, so instead of, what was it, $600 at 4% for a whole year, which would be 360 out of 360, so 1. Then that would be 24. So that would be $24. So that would be what? That's $20 more than if you had paid it off after 60 days. All right, D. In example 6, how much money would the account contain at the end of 1 year if it were compounded annually instead of quarterly? So what is $10,000 times 6%? That would be $600. So there would be $10,600 in the account. And so we're leaving, whenever we're not compounding our interest, we're leaving money on the table potentially, right? The additional, adding that interest to your principal sooner means you'll earn more interest in the long run. So hopefully that prepares you for 7.6, and we'll see you in the next section.